Unclouded Eye. I'm Ashley Brooke.
And I'm Ty Gowan.
And we are your source for the astrological forecast and some cosmic chit-chat.
Yeah, and we're back from winter break.
Yes. Hope everyone had a happy holidays and are easing into the new year.
Yeah, Ash, what is a favorite holiday memory of yours? Like what's a shining moment for you? If we're going to do some recap stuff for the last couple of weeks, because we did some mini episodes. If you guys want to go back and watch those real quick, those are waiting for you. They're just the astrological forecast, but I watch them after my week is done sometimes. Yeah. I know that's weird.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
I like looking at the astrology after it's happened because you know, hindsight.
And I learn more from it that way because it's like, I remember, oh my God, I came back. There was, it was Friday the 13th, which I usually have Good Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So this is like back earlier last month. And I remember you saying like, this is going to be a doozy. I think just astrologically, there was a lot of transit. I wanted to throw up, quit my job, and light the house on fire that day.
Yeah.
Like, it was intense. And I usually have such good days. So yes, looking at them in rears is kind of my favorite thing to do.
I agree with you on that. I feel the same way. And yeah, so the last episode we put out, the last mini episode, also has a little preview for 2025 too. So if you're curious, that'll show you a window into that.
But getting back to the holiday stuff, like what's something that burns bright for you? And it doesn't have to be like a big tradition or anything like that, but just like a favorite holiday memory that just is loud, I guess, for you.
So when I was growing up, we always watched It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas Eve. That was like the family tradition. We would just watch that movie. So that really reminds me of Christmas. But as far as like a really unique holiday memory, when I was 13, the week before Christmas, we went to stay at this bed and breakfast that was super decorated for Christmas.
Where was it?
It was in Dexter, Maine.
Oh, so yeah, that's not close.
No, it's a couple hours north from here. And yeah, and it's actually a haunted bed and breakfast, which we didn't know at the time. But I had multiple experiences that night, but it was like really beautifully decorated for Christmas. So it was almost like the Scrooge mansion.
The ghost of Christmas present,
exactly.
Past and future all came to you in one night.
Yeah. So we stayed in this game room and that had a chessboard that was out and just all of these different games. And in the night, the chess pieces moved. So there was like a game going on. And we heard thumping, and then in the morning, all the chess pieces were in different positions.
I love that so much. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, so that was a really fun memory. I like to think about that, and I want to go back there.
Maybe we should do like a live from there sometime.
That would be really cool.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, I don't know if they embrace the fact that they're haunted or if they...
We can sneak that in there.
Yeah,
that's not what this podcast is about.
They don't need to know why we're there.
Exactly.
So what about you? What's a good memory for you?
Honestly, the reason why I said it doesn't have to be like a huge memory or a big deal is because what I was thinking about for me is that my grandmother would always just go like, she would start decorating for Christmas the day after Thanksgiving, and it would stay up most of the way through January. So it was an event for her. But I have this memory of, it's not even a childhood memory. I remember I was working just outside of Portland, and I left and I was in my first car, if you remember the Saturn.
Of course I do.
Bald tires, no money to fix it type of situation.
Yep.
And it had started to snow like right before I got out of work. And it was like bad. Like in Maine, or probably anywhere you guys are, it's like the first snowstorm, people just forget.
Yeah, they don't know how to drive.
It completely lost no matter where you live. Like we get this every year here. But I had to drive by my grandmother's house on the way home, and this snow was coming down pretty bad. And so she was always home. And so I surprised her. I literally just pulled in the driveway and sheltered until like the storm ended. But it was just such a wonderful Christmas memory because it was like maybe a week before Christmas. We had tea and just some snacks, and I got to sit in her box bay window, which was all done up for Christmas, and the snow was coming down outside, and we just talked.
That sounds so cozy.
It was the best Christmas memory. Like music was on in the next room, and it was just such a spontaneous visit for both of us that we kind of just sat in each other's presence for like maybe an hour and a half, and the storm let up, and she called my mom, even though I was a full ass adult, to let me know that I was safe.
Tyler's safe.
Yeah, exactly. And it just felt like almost like being a kid again. And I think
love
that was so good. And I think of that every year of just like sitting in that window and being like, try to like reset in the craziness that is the holidays and just be like, there's peace if you find it. You know, you just have to look. So
it's so important, really important to find that quiet moment, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I like this time of year for that. And, you know, but now we're in January and I'm ready for it to heat up again and spring to come around. But, you know,
I'm kind of over it at this point. But, you know, we've got like probably 3 more months before it's even warm.
That's why I wanted to bring up the nice Christmas memory because we're not letting it go yet.
Yeah.
But anyways, what do you have for us for the astrology this week?
Okay, so let's hop on in. So this week we're talking about Monday the 6th through Sunday the 12th. So on Monday, January 6th, we have Mars retrograding back into Cancer. So Mars has been retrograde. It's been in Leo up until this point, and now it's moving back into Cancer.
Sure. Okay.
So this is at 5:44 a.m. Eastern time. It's backtracking. So the second part of Mars retrograde is going to have a different flair because...
Do tell.
Yeah. So, I mean, Mars retrograde does kind of sap energy. It makes us feel more tired. It can feel like we need to take more breaks. There's more of a need for self-care and just being aware of your body and your energy. And there could be frustrations that come up about not being able to get certain things done or just getting slowed down or stopped in your external progress.
Yeah, that's been real so far.
Yeah. So as we move into Cancer, there's definitely more of a need to kind of recoup at home. Cancer, you know, rules over the home. It rules over the family. So needing to maybe stay closer to home, having more time to really, I don't know, like...
I mean, that's great for...
Charge yourself.
Yeah, January. Perfect time to stay home. It's going to be like negative like 15 here in the next like week or two, you know, like...
Yeah. So if you are a cardinal sign, so that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, you're going to be feeling the Mars retrograde more this second half.
It's because we have more responsibility because holding down the weight of all the signs to make sure the fire is the most pure as a cardinal sign, it does take a lot out of you.
Yeah, I know. It's extremely, extremely exhausting, I can imagine.
Aries have to burn so bright so that Leos can enjoy that glow.
Wow. Okay. So yeah. For us, for the fixed signs, we've had Mars retrograde squaring, conjuncting, or opposing us. So that, to remind you, the fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So we've been getting it more. I know I've been so tired. I've been taking like multiple naps a day.
Oh my gosh, I can't nap. Are you okay?
You're probably going to nap when Mars retrogrades into Cancer.
I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. Or at least you're going to need to like chill out and rest.
That I can do. I've got Stardew Valley.
Okay. Yep. That's perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything, like I've been wanting to just read books and play video games and just chill out. My energy levels have been low.
God, Ash, multiple naps a day.
Yeah, I am okay. I'm just tired. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, no one can blame you for that.
Yeah. So then later in the day on Monday, we have Mercury squaring Neptune at 8:55 a.m. And this is one that can kind of create some mental confusion. We might be overwhelmed by thoughts. We could feel like we're kind of running with a truth that might not even be fully true. Like you might just make an assumption about something and then kind of like plan out your day around it, even though it's not real.
Okay, that's nerve-wracking.
Yeah. So being sure that we are maybe holding back before we just dive into like, oh, this person must be mad at me. Like, okay, now I'm going to go about my day like they're mad at me because they didn't reply to my text.
No, we need to take extra time to explore and investigate during this time.
Yeah.
Double check.
Before, like, it's okay to maybe feel a way about that, but maybe don't, you know, if you don't hear back from them in an hour, maybe don't barrage them with like, what did I do? Like, why are you upset? You know, like maybe just wait and see. You know,
give everyone their time, their space.
Yeah. So there could be other ways that manifests, but it's specific to communication and thinking. So that's where you might see it happening. Okay. Wednesday, January 8th, there's actually 3 transits happening. So Mercury is entering Capricorn at 5:29 a.m. Eastern time. And this is going to feel like a big relief because Mercury has been in Sagittarius for 2 months. And while that's fine, you know, I mean, it was retrograde there. So that's why it was there for so long. Because normally Mercury's in a sign for about 3 weeks, but it was like 2 months this last time.
It just get to explore all of
Right.
it. Did advanced studies on it.
Yes. So while that, is fine, it can make it hard to kind of generate new ideas because Mercury is so zippy. It likes to move through things quickly. It likes to move from sign to sign. So when it's stuck in one place for a long time, we can start spinning our wheels a little. We can start going over the same ideas again and again. And so when it moves into a new sign after that extended period, you feel the relief. You feel some fresh inspiration coming in. And Mercury in Capricorn is all about future planning. It's all about thinking ahead. It's great for kind of setting your ambitions for the year to come and just
Perfect
being
timing.
A little more direct in our speech as well.
No, that's great for January.
Yeah.
I remember seasonal depression hit about mid-January last year for me, and that's when I got out the grid paper and started planning the garden for summer.
Perfect. Yeah.
This feels like a good time to do that again.
Yeah. As soon as the 8th hits, anytime the rest of the month would be great for things like that.
Sweet.
Mercury is squaring the nodes of the moon at 12:14 p.m. on Wednesday, and this could make us feel like a little bit stuck between okay, maybe I'm thinking about a past project, but I also want to move into the future, but I'm kind of not sure where to direct my energy. So, maybe that day, the 8th, the day that it moves into Capricorn, there's a lot of excitement and get up and go type energy, but we also just kind of have to ease in, we don't have to fully just drop all the old previous stuff just to feel something new.
No, I hear you. Totally.
Yeah. And then finally, the sun is squaring Chiron at 8:53 p.m. Could be some insecurities coming up, maybe needing a boost in confidence, feeling like our self-esteem is a little low or just in need of a revamp.
What if you love Chiron so much? Does it spin for you because you respect it?
I love that you want the planets to bend to you,
I wish the planets would bend to me knowing how much I love certain ones of them.
I think that by keeping a good attitude about it, it can definitely help. It can help any of these transits.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Chiron is all about healing. So maybe you, knowing that you love Chiron, you could use that to help build up people around you.
I'm going to do it.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what it means. It means that responsibility is falling onto you to
That's fine.
bolster your friends, your family.
As stated earlier, I'm a cardinal sign, so I can hold that whole planet up if it needs it. Sweet baby Chiron.
Sweet baby Chiron.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, January 11th, we have a really big transit happening.
Okay.
So the North Node and the South Node are changing signs, and this is a 1.5 year long transit. So this is going to create a new energy for the next 1.5 years.
This is new for us. We haven't discussed this yet.
No, this hasn't happened. So about 1 year and 8 months ago, the North Node moved into Aries. The South Node moved into Libra. Now they are moving. So the nodes move backwards because they're not planets. They don't move the same way planets do. They are points in the sky. They're points in the moon's orbit. So they move the opposite way.
Okay.
So the North Node is moving into Pisces, which is, one sign back, and the South Node is moving into Virgo. So basically what this means is there's going to be more of a focus collectively on spirituality. Pisces rules over spirituality and intuition and kind of being more compassionate. So that's kind of where we're all getting pulled toward. Whereas Aries was more about being independent, self-directed, maybe a little more warlike. There was more energy kind of getting directed toward that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look how that turned out.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is trying to draw us into more of a Piscean energy collectively. And I wonder, for the last 1.5 years, since you are in Aries, I really got into this. So on Patreon, I did the Capricorn season horoscope guide, and I talked about how this nodal shift is going to affect each sign. So definitely check that out if you are not on Patreon. That will tell you how this is going to impact you based on your sign. But knowing that you're in Aries, so for the last 1 year and 8 months, there would have been a lot of almost pressure to level up or to try to push yourself out of your comfort zone, but it would have felt really difficult to do so. Does that resonate for you?
2 new jobs, new podcast, 3 new writing projects. Had to level up and didn't know where, so I was trying to do it all at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
So that should actually ease up for you a bit on January 11th. And then our Pisces friends, any Pisces out there listening, they're going to start to experience that energy.
Community manager Erin is a Pisces and a Virgo.
She's a Pisces sun, Virgo moon.
Yeah.
So she's going to get.
So this whole thing is her, right?
Yeah. So that means that she might feel like she wants to stick close to her comfort zone, but there's something pulling her to expand out of that.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, Erin, my friend, you're gonna feel it, and I want to talk to you about how this goes. We'll get an update. We'll get an update from a real live Pisces Virgo.
We can sponsor her in on the next, or not sponsor her in. We can pull her in on the next episode.
Yeah, we'll just get we'll see how that's going.
Interview Erin.
Yeah.
For the Patreon.
Okay, and then finally on Sunday the 12th, we have our last transit for the week as Mars trines Neptune at 4:15 p.m. This one's been building up over the weekend, and we're going to feel it into next week. This is a really nice transit because it's all about inspired action. If you think about it, Mars is action, activity, aggression, like moving the body, and Neptune's spirituality and intuition. So when those are working together, you're inspired to act. You feel like compelled to act or drawn towards something in life. So this is helpful to kind of just give you a natural flow to like move towards something. So this could also be great for like doing spiritual projects or projects that involve the intuition or like artistry, because Neptune can be really into like abstract art and things like that as well.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's a nice transit to end the week on.
I love it. Well, thank you for that astrological forecast for this week, Ash.
You are welcome.
Okay. And now it's time for the unclouded eye occult topic of the week.
Okay.
You ready to dive in?
Yes, I am. I didn't even know what it was until we sat down.
Sometimes I keep them away from you. I could have told you probably this one. If it would give away like that plus the birth date type of thing, I try to not tell you.
Yeah.
But I don't know about this one because this is something I learned from this person in general. I would not have associated them with exorcisms.
Okay.
But that's what we're going to be talking about today.
All right, exorcisms.
Yeah.
I'm so here for it.
Would you attend one if you were given the opportunity to? Like,
so
straight up, like it is a confirmed exorcism type of thing.
I mean, okay, so I have like a double-edged kind of answer to that because I was brought up Catholic. I was a good little Catholic girl who was very scared of becoming possessed. For some reason, I thought that might be like a bigger problem in life that I would experience.
Like quicksand.
Yeah, exactly. Quicksand, the Bermuda Triangle. These are all things that I was worried about. And as far as my, life has gone, I have not seen any need for exorcism. And so there's still like a part of me that is maybe like a little afraid of that. But then there's also a part of me that's super curious about it as well.
Right.
So there's definitely, I feel like, it's funny because I was like, well, maybe I could be an observer. But the thing is about what, as paranormal investigators can tell you, there's no such thing as being just an observer who's not involved.
Right.
Like our camera people used to come along on Haunt Me and they'd be like, oh, we're going to just be here filming and nothing's going to happen to us because we're not investigating. But it's like, you're there. You're a part of it. There's no way to be an impartial observer. So
correct.
I guess I would do it, especially if I was with people who I felt like, we could all protect each other and work together.
Yeah. Good answer, Ash. That's awesome. And you talked a bit about your, just being Catholic. And so that's kind of what we're going to look at to start about exorcisms. But I also did some research on other cultures too, because it's not just a Catholic experience. I think that's important to call out.
Very true.
So the common perception that comes from the Catholic Church is what we see in the movies, right? So we're going to start there. According to the United Conference of Catholic Bishops, an exorcism is a specific form of a prayer that the church uses against the power of the devil himself. So they can be split into two different categories, though, and I didn't realize this either. There's your major exorcisms, again, like the exorcism of Emily Rose type of thing.
Okay.
And then there's minor exorcisms, which they do kind of just more often.
You got to touch a demon in you.
A little spark of demon, a little demonic flavor. So that minor one, the little sprinkle of an exorcism, is actually conducted before baptism. So you go into the experience pure, which makes sense.
So it's more of like a preventative exorcism?
It's like a scrubbing bubble for the soul.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to just clean you up real good. But
whether you have a slight demon or not.
Right. If you have the demon, you need to go full CLR.
Yeah.
Like you got to make sure that you're putting that stuff from the infomercials up on your drain to get the lime rust and calcium out. Like you need to go heavy. That's the full exorcism there. But the first one is really just like a series of prayers that the faithful use to invoke blessings. Where the second one, the major exorcism, it can only be conducted by bishops or priests in the Catholic Church. And it has to have the express permission from the church to expel or remove demonic possession, which again, you see in all these movies is the hard part, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because maybe not the hard part for so much longer, because the need for Catholic exorcisms has been steadily increasing over the past 2 decades. So that can be attributed into like an acceptance thing. Like people are accepting that maybe this is a real thing that has to be done. Also a knowledge thing, like since the 2000s or whatever, those movies have spiked. So therefore people blaming problems on demons and requesting exorcisms has increased. Therefore, the small amount that actually get approved also increased.
Right. Because it's really hard to get these things approved.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Yeah.
But with that increase, when I was doing my research, I kept finding advertisements for training in Catholic exorcism, basically asking for priests to take up the rite.
Wow.
And so I found a stat that was since 2018, or in 2018, I should say, the Vatican opened its doors to 250 new priests from 50 different countries to take a week-long course about exorcism and something called the Prayer of Liberation. And so this was a whole big thing that like they put this emphasis into the fact that more are needed. Therefore, they actually opened it up at the Holy See itself.
Okay.
Big deal.
Yeah.
And so in 2023, it was when I was doing research, it was 2024, if I'm to be honest. So this was accurate, up-to-date information at the time.
Yep.
But it sounds so far away now that it's 2025. But so in 2023, there were 62 exorcists in the U.S. recognized by the Holy See.
That seems like a lot. That's like more than one per state.
Yeah. Exactly. So they're out there. It's just, again, it was just like I don't know. I thought there would be hundreds, I guess. 62 does sound a lot now that you say it. But like in my mind, there would be fleets of people who know how to do exorcism.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
They play it pretty close to the chest, apparently.
Right.
But so that's Catholic, right? Let's dip a little bit beyond that. Because with saying like Catholics own the right to exorcisms is, I think, just a gross underrepresentation.
Yeah. No, there's plenty of other cultures that partake in that.
So in Tibetan Buddhism, there's a holiday on the 29th day of the 12th month of the Tibetan calendar that is meant to specifically exorcise ghosts, drive out negativity, evil spirits, and misfortune. So they pick a day of the year to just clean a house.
That's great.
Yeah.
I feel like we should all do that.
Come one, come all.
Just
get your exorcism and anything else that's just stuck to you.
Yeah, like let's just ring some bells, like do some like sacred smoke. Let's just clear it out. Yep,
I'm in for the Tibetan idea of it.
Yeah.
In Islam, I found out when a healer has determined a person needs an exorcism, an Islamic healer tries to communicate with the spirit and identify it first, which I think is interesting because Catholicism, right? It's demon in the big umbrella territory.
Yeah, demon.
But I found in Islam, I might pronounce these titles wrong, so apologies, but they want to identify it as an arwah, which is a ghost, a zar, which is a negative spirit or a demon, a jinn, a devil, and then they had a host of other icons that it could be.
Right.
And I love that so much because like growing up again on Buffy, it's like hit the book, identify the negative entity, and then it has an equal and opposite reaction that you have to do for the spell.
Yeah, not every demon is created equal.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hinduism, which I know that you were quite interested in as well.
Yeah, I've studied it quite a bit.
So do you know anything about Hindu exorcisms then?
I mean, very minimal. I wouldn't feel comfortable commenting on it.
Well, I still don't feel comfortable when I researched it. So apologies out there if I get these intricacies wrong. But Hindu healers will call upon the name of Narasimha, which is an avatar of Vishnu who seeks to destroy evil and restore Dharma. In a common way to relieve an afflicted person is by doing this when they suspect a person is possessed by a spirit known as a boot.
A boot.
B-H-O-O-T.
Okay.
And so that is just kind of Catholicism, Hindu, Tibetan, and Islam. We got demons, we got negative spirits, we got negativity out there. And it seems like it's a universal practice to try to rid ourselves of that.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
the
sure there's
exorcism.
plenty of other cultures too. Like that's just, the tip of the iceberg, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's
Yeah.
so much more that I didn't mention,
Right.
which includes trying to go ahead and do one on your all on your own, which is what our birthday this week tried to do
Like for themselves or for someone else?
on their pool.
Okay.
So we have January 8th, 1947, London, England, 9 a.m. to see what this solo exorcist has in the chars. Oh, in the star chart. I said chars. That's star chart. Char start. Let's see what they have for their natal chart.
Okay. So we have here a Capricorn sun with their moon in Leo and Aquarius rising. So this is a person who has a flair for the dramatic. People with a Leo moon, they like to be very expressive. They tend to be performers in some way. There's usually a draw toward being super expressive with their feelings, their emotions. They have their moon in the 7th house, so relationships and partnerships seem like they're important. But at the same time, they also have a lot of stuff in their 12th house, which would kind of give a lone wolf energy.
Okay. Is the 12th house like a house of independence or something?
It's a house of being sort of disconnected from the world. It's more about like the subconscious.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So there's a couple ways you could read that because they have the sun, Mercury, and Mars all in their 12th house. So sometimes you'll see people who are very spiritual who have this. They're a little disconnected from the world. They might be at times almost dissociated from like the physical plane.
Oh, I want to tell you who it is now.
Well, just one more moment. So then they do have their Venus, their midheaven in the 11th house in Sagittarius. So they are drawn toward groups and community. There is some draw toward that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is somebody who is not concerned with society's rules. They're not concerned with like the way that everyone else does things. They have their own flair. They have their own way of living. They're not really thinking about that at all.
Preach.
They have, let's see.
What about, would you say like inspiration to others type of thing? Like if they're in that group, are they leading that group type of thing? Because they're so independent? Are they turned off by it? Or are they like interested?
Like in leading?
Yeah.
So yeah, they have Jupiter in the 10th house, which would make them very well known. It would be hard to hide from the spotlight. Like it would be just because wherever they go, they do inspire. They do, people might copy them. People might just try to follow. Yeah, I guess. I mean, they have Neptune in the 9th house. There's a lot of like spirituality. There's a lot like that's a big mission in life. And so there would be people that would be drawn to that. And having all that energy in the 11th house, yeah, there's community that's kind of founded around it, but it's community that's off the beaten trail. It feels
needs that niche.
Yeah, it feels a little bizarre or unique in some way, but there's also a lot of 7th house stuff which would indicate that there is like a need for partnership. There's a need for other people, even though at sometimes they feel like they aren't putting that energy out, but truly there is.
Yeah.
Under it.
No, I get that totally.
Yeah. Aquarius rising too, going to be like kind of a misfit, doesn't want to fit in, doesn't want that at all.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you seeing for like arts?
Well, yeah, they have Uranus in the North Node in Gemini in the 5th house, which would give them a lot of different ideas coming in, a lot of creativity. That's like one of their major paths in life. But it seems like there was almost some issue with communication for them. Like they would have like maybe dealt with as a child. Maybe it was hard to speak up. It was hard to communicate. Maybe they weren't taken seriously until they started to build this following.
Yeah, I think that's really fair.
Okay,
I think this is an aced natal chart so far.
Okay. Any other questions about it? Like, do you know anything about their romantic relationships?
Honestly, not really.
Okay.
If I would say that it would probably take a back seat almost. They were universally loved, I think. But I don't know about like, passion in solo relationships so much.
Okay. Yeah.
And actually you might know more. So I'll ask you to pull in for that. Anything else that you want to share about that? Anything startling that
let's see.
that is out there and then weird?
Yeah. So
no grand crosses.
No, everything's clustered at the top of the chart. That's probably the weirdest thing. Like pretty much everything minus Uranus and the North Node are in the northern hemisphere of the chart, which would definitely mean that this person is somebody who's very like out there in the world. They're going to be like out there in society. They're not necessarily like, even though they have a lot of 12th house placements, which can lend itself to being like more of a hermit or more reclusive, like everything's out there. So this is a more public persona. It's somebody that is really interested in kind of affecting other people. Whereas if you have everything in the lower hemisphere, you're maybe more interested in kind of like doing things on your own, like, you know, outside of the perspective of others and being a little bit more introspective or introverted.
That checks out. And I think also too, because they use their northern hemisphere vibe to probably have a stage persona and then maybe kept their life as private as possible when you were this famous.
Yeah, that checks out. There's like definitely with all that Leo energy in the 7th house, like they are putting on a show which gets them attention, which they really like. They really like feeling connected to other people in that way. But yeah, there's a lot of private, personal stuff going on because of the 12th house too.
Well, you want to hear about this famed exorcism?
Yeah.
This is David Bowie.
Oh my God.
And that's why I just felt like you nailed it on the head with the chart that you just read.
Yeah. Very eccentric for sure. And yeah, the relationship stuff. I know he was married to Iman. She was like a model. But yeah, like I think they were together for a really long time. So Saturn in the 7th house, that would make sense.
And he had a wife named Angela, who I quote here as well. That was during the time of the exorcism.
Okay.
But I don't know much about her.
Yeah, I actually don't know too much about her either. I just know about his later marriage.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's dive in to the life of David Robert Jones, which I also didn't even realize was his real name. Davy Jones. That's right. So he was born to a waitress and a children's charity worker. So his parents were, very much among the people. But he grew to become one of the most influential musicians of all time, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Which again plays into, I think, that the northern part of his chart there.
Yeah, it would be hard for this person to hide.
Yes.
Yeah, even if he wanted to.
Exactly. And I think he accomplished parts of that, especially, towards his health crisis towards the end. It was very private, that he kept that until I think the album Black Star came out.
Right.
When he really shared some of what was happening and why he released it at that time. But we'll get into that. Growing up, he was described as having an adequate singing voice, but at age 9, his parents put him in a music and movement class, and that just clicked for him. Like the little 9-year-old found out where he needed to be. He was incredibly imaginative, vividly artistic, and had really astonishing interpretations of music. Like you could play him music and he would pull something unexpected out of it, according to his father.
Yeah, really good ear for that.
So his father saw this aptitude and began collecting American vinyls and gave them to Bowie. And so Elvis was a huge inspiration to Bowie as well.
Yeah, he was for a lot of those artists from the like early 70s, I feel. They were kids when he was coming out.
Yeah, game changer.
Yeah.
That would be like Avril Lavigne and us.
Oh my God. That's such a funny example.
So he danced and he learned music, and his father took him to meet these singers that he loved, attend concerts.
So his parents were supportive.
Yes, exactly. So that support just fueled this kid's talent. And he started his first band at age 15 called the Conrads.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay. I have so much I didn't know about him. Yeah. So he releases his first solo in 1967 as an adult. And I haven't actually heard this before doing the research. Never even heard of this song. But it's apparently, including Bowie, say that it is the worst song that he has ever made. Was his first solo, and it's called The Laughing Gnome. Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't heard The Laughing Gnome, but, I feel like the first songs, you're not always going to love
like the first pancake.
Yeah.
It's going to soak up all the grease and you just toss it out. Like you just needed to try it. So it's weird. I've never even heard of The Laughing Gnome.
I actually haven't either.
Right. And you're a big music person too. Yeah. So we got to try to find that and share it on Patreon.
I'm sure it's online somewhere.
So after The Laughing Gnome comes out and fails, it takes 2 years before he releases any new music. When he does, he was morose about a failed love, an unsuccessful career. But he was inspired by the Apollo 11 launch.
Okay.
And 5 days before it takes off, he releases Space Oddity
Oh,
on
wow.
July 11th, 1969, and it just hits.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so over the next decade, Bowie has a series of, successes and falls, but he's really being experimental, right? That's why I asked you about that stage presence.
Yeah, he's got that, all the Leo energy, the Leo moon in the 7th house. Yeah, like that's all about kind of putting on a persona. Uranus in the 5th house, very unique, almost alien creativity. Aquarius
which is
rising.
Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah.
And also the Starman.
Yeah, very sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. And that's what helped him continue to climb, is reinventing himself, putting on a new stage, trying new sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time he passed away in 2016, which I can't believe has been that long.
I can't believe it's been 9 years now. Wow.
He tapped out before things got crazy.
Yeah.
So I just think he's riding a comet through space, and he's going to come back one day.
Yeah. David Bowie, save us all.
That's right. So he had 11 number one albums. He appeared in over 30 films. Do you have a favorite Bowie film?
Oh my God. Okay, there's so many. I mean, Labyrinth clearly is a wonderful.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's very weird. Like
it was just like him,
just
though.
stealing babies, you know, whatever.
Why not?
I love Labyrinth. I love The Prestige, where he plays Nikola Tesla.
So good when he was Tesla.
Yeah, that one is incredible. He's a great actor, honestly.
My favorite is Zoolander.
Oh my gosh.
He judges the walk-off.
That's right.
Yeah.
Zoolander is so funny. I recently rewatched it, and spontaneous gasoline fight.
It's just one of my favorites. I don't know why
any movie.
It's the orange mocha frappuccino.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
It's so funny.
So other cool things that he did is he turned down a knighthood from the Queen.
Really?
He did. She wanted to knight him, and he didn't want that. So he literally he's alien. That's very terrestrial.
Yeah, it's Sir Bowie. Yeah, no.
And I'll leave off with the one that caught my eye is performed one exorcism on a swimming pool.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to really tell me all the details about this.
Yeah, let's go into this story of Bowie and the exorcism. I know that was like a really brief overview of his life, but let's get into like the good stuff of David Bowie and the demon in the swimming pool.
Yeah, I mean that's why we're all here, right?
So it's 1970s. He is in his White Duke era, which means that he was on a lot of cocaine.
That's why it's called the White Duke.
I think so, yeah. So worried about him, Bowie's own publicist introduced him to a woman who we have to do a Patreon deep dive. Like this woman, I couldn't find too much information on her, but maybe together we could.
Okay.
Her name is Wally Elmlark.
Okay, I haven't heard of her.
She's a witch who was helping Hollywood stars during the 1970s deal with personal demons. Like that's just kind of, she was just known about town. And I kind of went down a rabbit hole on her own. She has this really cool story, but either way, Bowie and Emlark formed a really fast friendship. And she actually helped him surmount his cocaine addiction.
Oh, wow.
Which is really cool.
That is.
So it's in the height of his drug phase, before she had helped him with this, that he and his wife at the time, Angela, bought a house from Gypsy Rose Lee to settle down in LA. And again, this is just before the Satanic Panic, right?
Right.
So he finds a pentagram painted on one of the floors in one of the rooms under a rug when he moves in, and he wants out, but like they just bought this house.
Yeah, they're tied to it.
Instead, he starts to unravel a little bit and gets convinced that there's demons and devils like associated with this pentagram. So he refuses to live there unless this situation is dealt with immediately. So I guess his wife and publicist came together and was like, well, you've been talking with Emlark. Why don't you have her come over and help? Which she did. And so I guess the wife stayed inside and Bowie and Willie worked outside for hours to set up the correct exorcism ritual. They found that the epicenter of the haunting was the swimming pool out back. And they worked together to exorcise this pool.
Wow.
So
I wish there was video footage of this.
For real. So Angela, his wife, states in her autobiography called Backstage, like she put it into print, that after hours of them working on it, she went outside to see what was, what had come of it. And she states, to the best of her truth, is that hours after the duo started their exorcism, the pool began to bubble in a very intense way, reaching the point of creating waves. I looked at it and saw a large shadow that looked like a gargoyle lingering in the depths, staring back up at us. And that was the demon that they exorcised from the swimming pool that day.
Oh my God.
And
I had no idea.
I didn't either. And so Bowie, even though he was convinced that the exorcism worked, and the pool calmed down, according to Angela, he still wasn't satisfied, and they moved out of the house 4 weeks later. Just it had been touched by that demon in the pool.
Yeah.
But that is David Bowie and the exorcism of the swimming pool.
Wow. I mean, who else? Who else would exercise a swimming pool?
Exactly.
Right?
I wish he had more time to enjoy it after he put all that work.
Yeah.
Into it.
But I mean, once you've seen a gargoyle shadow in it,
I'm not going in the deep end. No, I'm not going to go in the deep end if I saw a demon down there, even if I know I got rid of it.
Yeah,
it's just
you've
tainted.
already seen it. It's ruined.
It's like dropping a contact in the sink. Like you can't wash that off enough.
No, it's gross now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's tainted with gargoyles.
Exactly. You can't have that.
Yeah.
You can't have the contact. You can't have the deep end.
Yeah.
So.
It's gone.
Yep.
Well, that was wonderful.
Yeah, I bet you didn't see that coming.
No, I really didn't. I had no idea about Bowie and how he would play into exorcisms. So that's why this podcast is great.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the little bits like this that I can share with you.
You
Ash.
learn something new every week.
That's right. And it's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anything huge that we should mention about next week coming before we wrap up?
Well, we've got a full moon happening next week. The sun is going to be moving into Aquarius, but it's like at the very tail end of the week. So I think we're going to do the Aquarius deep dive the following week.
Okay.
And we have just a bunch of like smaller transits, but the big thing are the full moon and the Aquarius energy going on. So yeah, should be good.
We'll dive into that next week then.
All right. Sounds great.
Awesome. Thanks, Ash.
Have a wonderful week, everyone. Unclouded Eye stars Ashley Brooks and Ty Gowan. It's produced and directed by Nick Nordfors. Music by Ashley Jane Cecilia and Jay Caron. Our community manager is Erin Cross. Art by Dawn Aquarius. Presented by Haunt Me. Follow Unclouded Eye at Unclouded Eye on Instagram and TikTok and Unclouded_Eye on Patreon. Special shout out to Victoria Ordonez and Christina Chiffon. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon.